Hello, and it is time for a new video. The lighting is off, it is later in the day, but if I don't record this today, I will not record it because it is September 5th, and this is the reading wrap up for July and August. So let us get started. We definitely bought more books than we read. I feel I'm going into a slump, and I'm scared. There's a lot of books that I read that were either ebooks or books that I did not own. And those are the books that I read. The two books that I physically have, I DNF'd them. What a great time we're having. When did I DNF those though? So we're gonna do this video from here because of the lighting situation. So change of scenery. The first book that I read, it is Of Seafoam and Saltwater by Kay Leda. This is a young adult book about a young girl who loves the sea. She loves painting, but she physically can't go into the sea. Then one day she goes into the sea, she turns into a mermaid and finds out she's the lost princess. Her real family was kidnapped by this tyrant king, and so she's just on a journey with the good kingdoms on a mission. They're setting up this whole mission to go rescue her family and another mermaid kingdom family that he has held captive in his home. It is a series. I don't know how many books are in it. Oh, there's only 2, at least so far. But I don't think I'm going to continue with the second book. I read this for the book convention I'm doing in December, and part of it is because it's YA. Not that YA is bad, but I feel like with this type of story, I'd feel more apt to continue it if it was like an older young adult or just like a new adult or an adult fantasy book. That was that book. And then the next book I read, if you go to my Super Secret Book Club video 1, the second video is not out yet. Don't worry. It is The Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. And this book really surprised me with how much I liked it and me trying to figure out what was going on, who was what and where and why. I was very much intrigued by how much I liked it, and I also don't know if I'm going to read because it seems like the series is following just one of the characters and it's not an overarching series. I may add on to my list of books that the library owns, and if the library has the other copies, then I will borrow them from the library. Now we move on to the 2 books that I DNF'd within the last 2 months. So the first one was part of my flip or flop. I DNF'd it pretty early on into the story, but that is Life as We Know It, and this is by Susan Beth Pfeiffer. Right? Pfeffer? This book starts off, it's written in journal entries, and it's one day the moon, I think it's a meteor or something, hits the moon, or the moon just immediately gets closer to the earth and things start happening. And for me, I was reading it, one, I didn't necessarily like being in the main character's head because she's 16 and her drama is all normal high school drama. I just didn't necessarily like being in the main character's head, and it was giving me a little bit of anxiety to read this book. And I can't explain why, but I was just getting an unsettling feeling while reading it, and so I didn't want to continue that feeling. So I stopped it, which sucks because I have the entire box set of this series. It's a whole YA series, because also the government was falling apart. I was like, I don't know. We have that now, and the moon's where she should be. And then I tried to read another book for the Super Secret Book Club, which was Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, but I stopped it specifically because, and I mentioned this in the video before, it mentions Israel and how the main character's mom has to go apologize to Netanyahu because somebody said something stupid and idiotic about Israel, and how dare they. So that's why I DNF'd this, and also I'm just not the biggest fan of Casey McQuiston's writing, because some of the same things I didn't like writing-wise within One Last Stop, I didn't like in here too, so it was like a little bit of the writing style. Not saying that the writing style's bad. Casey McQuiston has a following, people who love their books for a reason. I'm just not one of those. The next book was also for the Super Secret Book Club, and that was The Last Wish, and it is by Andrzej Sapkowski, and it is the first book kind of installment of The Witcher. On the Storygraph it says it's the first book in the Witcher series. However, the book is more of a selection of short stories and like flashbacks of Geralt. I liked it. I remember liking the show. I can't remember if I finished season 2, but I know I've seen part of season 2 at least. Pretty sure season 3 has been out as of recording this. I'm pretty sure they are currently recording season 4. I may pick it up, you know, start watching it again, but I did like the Witcher book. It was very fun and like a very easy way to kind of enter into this fantasy world too, because you weren't getting thrown in the beginning and it's like meeting all these people and giant world building. It was, hey, here's this story. It was taking place here. Here's this. Now let's get into like the actual event that happened. So I thought it was a pretty fun way to kind of introduce a world and a character. The next like 4, and I have not finished a single book since I finished these 4. They're all part of the same series. It is books 2 and 3 and then 2 little short stories that follow along. So it is the continuation of the Themis Files series. So we have Walking Gods and the short story of file number 1743, and then Only Humans with the short story of file number 2491. I read Sleeping Giants earlier this year and I really liked it. It was a science fiction story written in these files of this researcher, Rose, who as a child fell into this giant mechanical hand, and now years later she is leading a team to discover more about this hand and the full robot that it's attached to. I don't want to spoil books 2 and 3, but it's just the continuation of the story and the characters. But one thing I will say, in case this is something that kind of turns you off from stories, in between each book is like a 10-year time jump. Sleeping Giants and Waking Gods, 10-year time jump. Waking Gods to Only Human, 10-year time jump. I was still engrossed enough in the story to keep going and finish this trilogy, the debut, trilogy of Sylvain Neuvel. I am going to try and look for the physical copies of books 2 and 3 to include on my shelf. It's just I have the first one in hardcover, and so I want all of them in hardcover, and I've only seen a copy of Waking Gods at a Half Price Books, and it was paperback. So I left it, but one day, maybe I will find the hardcovers of those. Those are the books that I read between July and August, but now we can get into the books that I purchased. And there's 8 books, but only 3 trips to a bookstore. I don't know if that makes it worse. Actually hearing me say it, it makes it worse. So the first 4 books I was hanging out with my friend Lexa. We were going to try and find some local bookstores in the area to just kind of visit. And we went to this one because we saw it and like the sign outside, it looked medieval. We got there and it was a Christian bookstore. And everything's fine with having a bookstore that's Christian. It was just every single book there was like related to Christianity. There was nothing, like no fiction books, non-Christian books. So there's probably like Christian romance or Christian like fiction books, but no like non-Christian stuff, like not even a single shelf. So we left and we were so far away. We had like gone to that one because it was like the furthest one out sort of thing. And we were going to do other things in that area. But then because that bookstore wasn't what we thought it was, and then the other places we wanted to go to were like closed, we just decided to head closer to home, and we went to the Half Price Books location in my city, and I got one book from there. It is a book that I have already read, but it is an in an edition that I do not have, and I am very into collecting different editions of this book now that I've read it and I've loved it for so long. I'll give you 5 seconds to guess. What could it be? It's The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. This beautiful like blue purple edition. Was very excited to get it. So now I officially own 3 copies of this book. One of them I do not physically have. My cousin and my aunt still have it, and if they don't still have it, I'll freak out. After we went to Half Price Books, we then went to Barnes & Noble because they were running a sale for like romance books where it was 3 books for $25, like through a specific selection of books. And so we wanted to go see. In that selection of books, I didn't find anything that I wanted. It was a very small selection because there's a kind of a small Barnes & Noble that we went to. But I did find 3 books that I'm excited for. The first one is a YA, but it's Julie Kagawa. It's her newest YA release, and it is Fateless. Legitimately don't know anything about this book or what it's about. I've just always been a fan of Julie Kagawa, so I saw that they had a copy, and I took it. I'm pretty sure it was the last copy in the store that I took, and so I'm happy to have this on my shelf and get to read it soon. And then the next 2, they are part of a series, so it's the first and second. Pretty sure it's the only 2 books in the series. I learned of these books from Books Unbound. Ariel read them. She didn't necessarily love them, but when she was describing them, it sounds like something I would absolutely love, so I got them. These books are both by Hisashi Kashiwa, and it is the Kamigawa Food Detectives, and then the second book, The Restaurant of Lost Recipes. So this follows I think it's a father-daughter duo in this small restaurant, and when people come into this restaurant, they can help them find recipes from their past, connected to memories. And I think it's just a very, cute little story. It is originally in Japanese, so it's a translated fiction. It is translated by Jessie Kirkwood. I'm excited to read it and see if I'll like it. And if I don't, I have both of them and I can sell them together or donate them together. But I wanted to buy both of them as well because they were cute editions of the covers. The next 2 books, again, I was with Lexa. We're going to try and do this bookstore crawl through the DFW area that a bunch, I think it was 25 different bookstores, came together, that, you would go to these different bookstores and you could get this passport stamped. At the end of it, it lasted all of August. And if you went to every single bookstore, got a stamp at each one, you could turn it into one of the bookstores and you'd be entered into a raffle. We only got to 3 of the bookstores during August, just because the beginning of August we're like, yeah, we'll get this, and then the end of August was a whirlwind. I got 2 books on the first day that we went to Denton. There was 3 bookstores in that one city. At Plot Twist, which is a book bar in Denton, I got the next 2 books in the Cocky Kingman series, and that is the Anaconda Downstairs and the Jackass in Class. The 6th book is coming out in October, so we'll see if I can read these fast enough before that comes out. But I mean, I only read the first 3 earlier this year, so I think I'm doing okay. Last 2 books that I purchased, I was with my friends. We were gonna go see a movie, and we had gone out to eat, and then the movie theater that we were going to was right next to a Barnes & Noble, and we had some time before going to our movie. We went inside the Barnes & Noble. We thought that 3 for $25 sale was still going on. It was not. I wasn't really necessarily looking for anything, but I found 2 books that have plus-size characters. This first one is from Kristen Vale. It is A Tale of Mirth and Magic. I am not fully sure, like, about this book. It just sounds kind of cute and whimsical, so I got it. I mainly bought it because plus size on the cover, and it was, you know, an author and a book that I hadn't heard about. So that's why I got that. And then I had only discovered that this book was a thing that same day while I was at work. I just happened to look up because I knew Olivia Dade's next Harlot's Bay book was coming out soon. Second Chance Romance, which I am so excited to get. Then as I was looking on Storygraph, I realized she had another book out. All it said was 2025. It didn't on Storygraph because I didn't look that hard. I got to Barnes & Noble and they had 1 copy, and that is Zom Rom-Com by Olivia Dade, about a girl. She's living through a zombie outbreak and her neighbor is a vampire who saves her life. And I love vampires. Zombies do give me a little bit of an existential crisis, but I think reading about it will be fine because I want to know more about Mr. Vampire Man and his giant sword, and specifically this one. I want to know about that sword. The other one's fine if I learn about it. It's okay. So I didn't even realize this was a thing, and I found it in the same day. And I love how like neon and pretty the cover is, and like how just green the spine is. Those are the books that I read and purchased between the months of July and August. I am hoping to get out of my slump for September, October, but I decided to go back to school as well, so we will see. I will see you guys in another new video soon. A bientôt!